New details emerging after the FBI stormed the private home of former President Donald Trump. The raid reportedly over an investigation into classified documents. Right. A source says agents looked at every single office, safe, and grabbed documents in boxes, and they were not being judicious about what they took. We are also learning that Trump's team voluntarily turned over 15 boxes to the government way back in January. And the former president's lawyers had a meeting with investigators in June over the issue. But they still decided to raid his place anyway. Trump coming out swinging over what happened, saying, quote, "It's a prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024. Republicans warning the DOJ and AG Garland they better be ready to explain themselves or face the consequences.
What was on the warrant? What were you really doing? What were you looking for? Why not talk to President Trump and have him give the information you're after?
We now find that justice in America is not equal. It's determined upon whether you want to go after a person or not. And you go after your political foes, I think that's wrong.
The FBI, when it comes to Trump, has lost their way. This unending desire to destroy Trump and his family is frustrating.
And the White House doesn't want to talk about it.
Is this administration weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI against political opponents?
Peter, the president believes in the rule of law. The president believes in the independence of the Department of Justice.
That's a yes or no?
No,
is
that
the
is
White House.
no. It's a yes or a no for you. I'm answering the question. You may not like it, but I'm answering the question, and I'm answering the question, and I'm telling you that we are not going to comment on a criminal investigation.
Judge, when I was reading that and came upon that part about classified documents, I heard you utter a two-syllable word that began with B and ended with T. Care to explain how you feel about this?
I did not utter those words. You know what are those words? Harold, my friend to the left.
Oh, I get accused of everything, and no one wants to take accountability for it.
All right, let me tell you what I think. What happened to Donald Trump last night was a continuing example of the left's attempt for the last 7 years to take this man down. That search warrant and the subsequent execution of that warrant was nothing more than a subterfuge, a fishing expedition to get whatever they can against this man, because in 7 years they have not been able to get anything against him. We've got a politicized Justice Department, a politicized FBI. All I have to tell you is we've got a Department of Justice and an FBI that is willing to sic the FBI on parents as domestic terrorists. We now have the IRS about to sic 87,000 IRS agents against the rest of us. This is classic overreach. But let me tell you about Donald Trump. You get a search warrant on presidential records? Are you kidding me? Classified records that he could unilaterally declassify when he was president. He could say he declassified them. And you come in, I was a judge. If you came to me and you said you wanted a search warrant, my first question is, why do you want a search warrant? Why not a subpoena? And if I had all the facts, I would know that this president had been working with them and had already given them 15 boxes that the media kept saying they were retrieved. But you know what? The National Association of Records Archives, National Archives Records Administration, wrote a letter saying, we obtained the cooperation of Trump representatives to locate records not transferred to the National Archives. They admitted, when they kept saying, the media kept saying, oh, Trump didn't want to give them the records, Trump said, hey, look, I'm working with you. They gave him a letter saying, yeah, he was cooperating with us.
Yeah,
so now what they want to do is the FBI that lied to the FISA judges, the FBI that had an affidavit for a warrant that contained a lie by Christopher Steele, who hated Donald Trump, a dossier that was false. They get these judges to sign the warrants. This is the same FBI, the same DOJ that comes out and doesn't prosecute any wrongdoing. They want to prosecute Donald Trump for what? For an administrative error?
Well, that's the thing. So,
assuming it's an error, and I'm not willing to admit it.
Well, the thing is, I mean, what the judge is hitting on is what you had Andy McCarthy on your show to talk about. Perhaps the motive, it has nothing to do with the documents at all, but they're trying to pressure the DOJ to find evidence linking some kind of criminal activity on January 6th. to Donald Trump.
Yeah, so think about the pressure on Merrick Garland, right? He's being accused essentially by people on the left of not being tough enough, of not pushing a prosecution here. They've got a grand jury that is underway right now that's looking at potential role in incitement of insurrection and the stopping of a certification of the Electoral College. So that's going on over here on this side, right? And then you have this raid that is ostensibly about this issue of preserving presidential records. But Andy McCarthy came on today and wrote a really good piece today that's in the New York Post that you can read, where he basically said, look, they're casting a wide net, exactly what Janine is saying. They're looking to fish through all of these documents and see if they can find anything that can help them in this larger picture of what they're working on with this grand jury, because they're under a lot of pressure to come up with something to get him not to run again in 2024. But, you know, one of the thing that kept striking me last night as I was watching the videos of these flashing lights outside the House, right? And I spoke to a former federal prosecutor this morning who said, you know, the demonstration of people and cars and flashing lights in front of the House. They didn't need to go in there with that kind of force and that kind of drama and theater. If they didn't get this right, this will be the biggest boondoggle in law enforcement history. It will do nothing but inspire this former president to run again and probably fire up his supporters in a way. Let me think about it. Think about the way Roger Stone was brought in. Think about Peter Navarro. Think about all of the history here. Think about, you know, my mind goes back to James Comey going in the early stages while they were in the transition with Michael Flynn and saying, and you know, when he said, you know, just send some guys over there. They're not really with it yet. They don't really know how this works. We're just send some agents over and see what you can get out of Michael Flynn before they really figure out how this all works. It goes all the way back to this story. So they better have it. They better have it nailed down, airtight, or it's going to blow up in their faces.
But you do point out there is a pattern to this. So normally you should be able to trust the FBI, but not in the last 10 years.
More.
It's kind of over. But then you look at the fact that Trump is like an energy monster. They're just feeding him. This is going to make him run. This is going to, like, do you think that they've caused the opposite reaction?
I've never seen the base more energized. I've never seen the base more angry. I'm angry. I feel violated. The whole country feels violated. It's disgusting. They've declared war on us, and now it's game on. Imagine you're Eric Trump and you're at Mar-a-Lago. That's your home. Your mother has just died 2 weeks ago, and they're sending FBI agents with weapons into your house, violating your privacy like that. It's unbelievable. Over the Presidential Records Act, Greg, that's like a librarian sending armed agents into your house. The Presidential Records Act, first of all, we can't even trust that this warrant wasn't corrupt. I mean, they cooked up a fake warrant last time when they spied on the Trump campaign. They doctored evidence. They forged documents to get it. How do we know they're not planning evidence right now? They planted evidence with Crooked and the CIA and the FBI already. And you can't trust this judge. They said, oh, a judge must have signed off on it. The judge is an Obama donor. The judge defended Jeffrey Epstein's team. You can't trust this guy. So they go in. They'll probably do a fishing expedition. God knows what they're going to find or plant or fake. But it's also trying to freeze the Trump base. You know, you're going to vote for this guy. You know, he could be indicted soon. It's telling the Republican donors, hey, don't donate to this guy. Republican corporate guys, don't donate to this guy. He's toxic. You don't want to go near him. That's what's going on. It's intimidation. It's bullying. Look at this thing he did. He was cooperating. So he's about almost 9 months of cooperation. He's already handed over about 15 boxes. As Janine said, she's right. He could have declassified this before he left the White House. So they get in, they bring teams in already. They're showing them where his stuff is. They're showing them where they keep it. The team says, all right, keep it secure, keep it locked up. Trump's lawyers were. Trump even stopped in and swung by and said hello. Next thing you know, they send 30 men with a safe cracker. What the hell are they doing? And they told the Trump lawyers, don't look at what we're doing. Don't record what they're doing. That's not by the book.
No.
And if you look at what Hillary's done, I mean, she's acid washed 30,000 emails under subpoena. Hillary's own lawyers smashed iPhones with hammers. And Comey comes out and he says, yes, they had over 100 classified documents in her possession in Chappaqua. And yes, they did break the law, but no prosecutor would ever touch it. And then Sandy Burglar goes into the National Archives and sticks all kinds of classified documents down his pants. They didn't raid his home. 2 CIA directors had classified information on their home computers. Their homes weren't raided. An FBI director took sensitive documents outside. They didn't raid his home. This is bull, and it's going to boomerang big time. Everybody can feel it.
So, Harold, you've heard 10 minutes of commentary. What strikes you about this? This is obviously a very serious thing that went on last night, and it's affected a lot of people, right? Is this
probably the president even more so, the former president? I look at this with a great deal of sympathy for someone who's been accused of something. And it looks as if the president may be accused of something. Now, the judge and all of us know you're innocent till proven otherwise in our country. And the president and everyone is entitled to that. And that presumption of innocence stands. But here's what I can't get my arms around. Listening to all of this, there's no doubt this is unprecedented, historic. If the Justice Department has bungled this, this will be a colossal, catastrophic. I'm 52 years old. It will be hard to reclaim credibility in my adult life. So they have that risk on them. Two, this is a court-approved warrant. Now, if a court approved a search warrant for my home, and they came in and that search warrant said, we believe you have 10 kilos of cocaine, 10 AK-47s, 3 documents showing you're going to work with Russia, 2 documents with China to betray our country, I'd turn that warrant right over to you, Greg. Mm-hmm. I'd turn it over to you, Judge. I'd turn it over to you, Martha, you, Jesse, and every other show here at Fox. And I'd ask Suzanne Scott to let me turn it over to CNN also, because I'd want everyone to know I'm innocent. Mm-hmm. I have no clue why they would come to my home, why they thought they would find this, and you should ask them if they found it. I hear what everybody's saying. This is a great political strategy you guys have articulated. In fact, if I ever get in trouble, I want you all to articulate one for me. What it's not is a legal strategy, because the legal strategy would be, and Judge, I would ask you this question in just my 30 seconds more I have here. If you were advising, put aside President Clinton, any client that had this happen to them, would you not say that search warrant enumerates what they were coming here to look for? Let's release that to the press. And if we believe there was some wrongdoing here, and you were my lawyer, Judge, I'd have you march me right into federal court this morning to say that this was illegal. They had no right to do this, and I want the world to know that not only am I innocent, I have no clue what these people were looking for. Now, the speculation about what this is about, January 6th, Georgia, New York, some classified documents, I have no clue. I've read all the reporting. I saw some reporting last week that said that there was this awful story, this 10-year-old little girl that was raped and was an incest case, and you had attorney generals across the country, including in those 2 states, said, we don't know what this case is about. We think the Democrats have made it all up, only to have to come back and recant to find out when the facts came out. So I think we should wait for the facts to come out here. The president is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. And I agree with that. But your speculation, I just think, is just a little
I don't think it's speculation at all. You do not break into a house of a guy that you've been working with for 9 months, that you have to admit has been cooperating with you for presidential records? No.
Can I ask you a question?
No. I'm going to answer your question.
Yes, ma'am.
And you do not do that and have guys with AR-15 and women, I might add, at the front of Mar-a-Lago in a situation like this where the man's about to announce for president, if he's going to run for president. But if I were the lawyer, the first thing I'd say is, as a citizen of the United States, I want to know from the Department of Justice why you're doing this. I want to know from the FBI whether or not this is legitimate, because everything that you've done regarding Donald Trump has been illegal, illegitimate, and immoral, and the country knows it. And you have destroyed our faith in the justice system.
Just one question, Judge.
It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's their fault.
His lawyers have that search warrant. They could release it.
And the government can answer the question.
All right. That was a great A-block. You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.